Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. This is my fourth week on the job, and I can say without a doubt that this pandemic continues to be incredibly challenging for every Oregonian on so many levels. This includes the Oregonians who have been waiting weeks or even months to get the unemployment benefits they deserve. Every day, I hear directly from Oregonians about how challenging it has been to live without an income. Whether it's a parent who's struggling to care for their family, or someone who has to decide between paying the bills or buying groceries, we know you are making really hard decisions. Every person needs their benefits, and that need is getting more and more intense as time goes on. Everybody will get all of the benefits they are eligible for. But while we are rapidly and increasingly rapidly getting benefits to those who are waiting, it will still take us some time to get all benefits to everyone. We work every day knowing that we will work as hard as we can to get benefits to as many people as possible, but that we cannot that day help everyone that is relying on us. We continue to triage the work we do, focusing on those who have been waiting the longest, while keeping the more straightforward claims going as quickly as possible. For those Oregonians who are struggling to get by without income, we urge you to call 211 to find out what other benefits and supports you may be eligible for, from housing support to food and healthcare. We also know the additional barriers faced by Oregonians who are not fluent in English in accessing benefits and other services. Besides calling 1-877-FILE-FOR-UI and selecting to speak to someone in Spanish, Vietnamese, or Russian, people can also email OED_languageaccess@oregon.gov to request a call back in their desired language. We also have materials in 15 different languages on our dedicated COVID-19 page. We held a virtual team meeting with our employees who are processing unemployment claims this past Saturday. We heard firsthand just how hard it has been talking with Oregonians who are in desperate need of their benefits. This has been an incredibly stressful situation for every employee. And we also heard the unending dedication and commitment to doing right by Oregonians. Our employees shared their ideas of how we can continue to improve. As they daily help so many people that are still in need of assistance, it can be hard for them to see the impact they are having on so many lives. But Oregonians are counting on each of our employees every day. I want to thank our dedicated employees here for everything they are doing. I and the rest of our agency leadership are committed to caring for our employees, helping them compassionately serve the public, getting more benefits into the hands of Oregonians. With just under a month in this role, I want to provide a big picture update and share some specifics on where we continue to struggle, along with plans for addressing those challenges. Since the beginning of the pandemic in March, we have received over 500,000 regular unemployment insurance claims. While it is certainly not enough, we have paid $1.9 billion in benefits since mid-March. We have processed 99% of all regular unemployment claims received since the surge in claims began. Nobody can receive benefits until their claim is processed, and for most people, once it is processed, they quickly receive their benefits. For some, though, other work must be done before they can get benefits. We are now focusing on those more complex claims that require more intervention. We have significantly increased our staffing and continue to do more. We've increased the number of people able to get through on our phones while decreasing the call wait times, although we know they are still much longer than we would like. While we've made a lot of progress, there remain additional challenges. We're required to investigate some issues through our adjudication process. That takes time, and it takes more time to train the people to do that work. Every new calendar quarter, and one of those is coming soon, federal law requires us to review each PUA claim and anybody receiving any benefit extensions to see if they are now eligible for regular unemployment benefits. Another challenge is that we are legally required to examine each claim from a school employee when summer break starts in order to determine if they are likely to have the same type of work after the break as they did before. The COVID-19 crisis means many more people may not have that assurance and so can continue to receive benefits, but we have to review each of those claims individually. That's why we continue to hire more people and train more people so we can get more work done more quickly. Last week, I announced Focus PUA, which is the department's aggressive plan to process the 70,000 remaining PUA applications. As I said last week, we've known since the PUA program was first created by federal law that it would be both an incredibly important safety net for Oregonians who could otherwise not receive benefits, but also one of the most complex new programs for us to administer. Until recently, we did not have numbers to share about how many claims had been filed and other aspects of the PUA program. That also made it hard for us to manage and prioritize the PUA work. We provided numbers about the PUA program last Wednesday as soon as we had them, even though it did not align with the usual Sunday through Saturday week used in unemployment programs. Project PUA and our reporting on progress towards those goals is based on the traditional Sunday through Saturday week. This is week 1 of Focus PUA, where our goal is to process 5,000 PUA claims. Next week, we will process 7,500 and an increasing number each week thereafter. Since April 28th, we've received about 97,000 PUA claims. We've paid $111 million in benefits to nearly 20,000 Oregonians. Although we are still early into Focus PUA, we believe we are on track to meet our goals of aggressively increasing how quickly we can get people their PUA benefits. Learning from the things that worked well in Project Focus 100, we are shifting substantial resources towards Focus PUA. This project centers around 3 key elements: improving the speed at which we can process claims each week, improving the technology used to receive and process claims, and increasing proactive communication to people through increased staffing and phone capacity. Focus PUA has us processing PUA claims at a rapidly increasing rate. In the 6 weeks since first launching this brand new program on April 28th, we paid about 17,000 people. We intend to address the approximately 70,000 PUA claims we have not yet processed in the next 7 weeks by August 8th. Over time, we'll be able to more quickly process claims as the process is improved and staff become more experienced. This is an aggressive goal, but we know how much people are relying on us to get them their benefits, so we're putting a huge effort into getting the most benefits to the most Oregonians in the quickest ways possible. Some of the complicating factors we face include that we aren't able to determine claim dates until each claim is manually entered into our system. As we enter applications in, we're prioritizing people who have been waiting the longest. Estimating people who are denied regular unemployment but are eligible for PUA and the other way around is difficult. Some people did not apply for PUA until very recently, but have been waiting months to get their benefits. Some people may be eligible under both programs for different time periods. The weekly claim process is less straightforward in PUA than in regular unemployment. Each weekly claim by each individual has to be worked on by one of our employees for benefits to be paid. As we get more people's PUA benefits started, we have not been able to keep up with all of the weekly claims. This causes some delays. If people have uploaded their weekly PUA claim, they do not need to call us for it to get processed, but it may take us a couple of weeks to process those weekly claims until we get caught up. We also know that many Oregonians have had issues submitting the PUA application in its PDF form. We've created webinars to support people in submitting those applications and encourage you to watch it prior to submitting forms. As I've mentioned previously, we're working with Google to create a new web-based PUA application for initial applications and for weekly claims. This will be easier for people to file, and it will address some of the challenges with the current filing process. It will provide some automation, particularly around those weekly claims, which currently require employee work for each person's weekly claim. Our target is to have this available in the first half of July. We added 138 phone lines a couple of weeks ago, and we'll add 150 more lines over the next 2 weeks. We continue to work with our vendors to make the system more stable, even as we continue adding more and more capacity. I also wanted to provide an update on our work-share program, which is one designed for employers to avoid laying off employees. We've paid out more than $32 million in work-share benefits since June 19th, or through June 19th. The work-share program, unlike regular unemployment insurance, is one where the employer initiates participation. There are three major steps in this program. One, the employer submits a plan with a list of participating employees. The employment department then determines if the plan is eligible for work-share. Workers identified by the employer to participate file an individual initial claim for benefits with the employment department, which we process. The last step is that the employer completes weekly certifications on behalf of their workers. The certifications are submitted each week that the employer has workers who have had their hours or earnings reduced by 20 to 40%. There are various time frames for each step of this process. Currently, the time between receiving an employer's initial plan, that's step one, and paying the first weekly benefit is approximately 8 weeks. We know that this is too long. Before COVID-19, we had 2 to 4 people regularly working on this program. We've been hiring new team members and have already added more than 50 employees with a goal of bringing that to more than 100 new employees to focus on work-share within the next month. As with other unemployment-related programs, we've seen a staggering increase in demand for work-share, and that means we're not yet processing the claims as quickly as we need to. As our new employees get trained and gain experience, we'll significantly reduce the processing timeframes. The timeframes will continue to depend on several things, including the number of new applications we receive, the number of employees covered by each of those plans, and the number of weekly certifications we receive each week. For context, between March 15 and June 13, we've had over 1,200 employers begin participating in work-share. In the prior 12 months, we had 168. And some of the programs that we're seeing now, some of those employers have thousands and thousands of employees covered. We've shared numbers in the past about how quickly we added employees to processing unemployment claims. There are so many parts to making sure that benefits can be paid and that they continue to be paid. The entire unemployment insurance division contributes to getting benefits to people. Before the pandemic's impact on our economy, there were fewer than 450 people in the unemployment insurance division. There are now over 750. That does not include another 70 temporary employees in the division, or the 400 employees from other parts of the agency who have shifted from their usual work to focus on getting benefits to Oregonians. We had employees working hard to create the PUA program early on, and the week of April 20th, we hired the initial team of 70 people to begin processing claims under the new PUA program. We now have more than 200 people processing PUA claims. This week, we added another 60, and we'll have many more added in the weeks to come. And I previously mentioned that at the start of the pandemic, we had just 2 to 4 people handling the work-share program. We now have more than 50 and intend to increase that to 100 employees over the next several weeks. We recognize the continued frustration for Oregonians who are still waiting to receive their benefits. I've said since starting here that I will be transparent and that I'm accountable both for our progress and our continued challenges. We've helped hundreds of thousands of people, but we still have a lot to work through. We will continue sharing the best information possible, the good news and the bad, as soon as we can. While many Oregonians are still waiting, we're grateful to have provided more than $1.9 billion in benefits to Oregonians over the past 3 months. We remain very grateful for the CARES Act because it is allowing more Oregonians to get benefits they normally wouldn't be able to qualify for. Their benefits are being extended for an additional 13 weeks, and they are receiving $600 more per week through the end of July. We hope that Congress will do much more, though. We're seeing the highest unemployment rate that Oregon has ever seen. We're very grateful for the patience of so many Oregonians that they have shown to us as we strive to help everybody get all of the benefits that they are eligible for. Thank you all.
Thanks, David. I would like to open up the lines to take questions from reporters. The first question is from Lindsay Nadrich. Lindsay, go ahead and with your question.
Okay, thank you so much. So for people filing PUA claims, I keep getting asked about gross earnings. And if that means you can deduct expenses. I did get an answer earlier in the week saying gross earnings is what you pull in before expenses, and that it's a federal guideline, but folks are saying other states are handling that differently for people who are self-employed and allowing them to deduct expenses. Do you know why Oregon is doing it this way and why it's not the same in all states if it's a federal guideline?
Sure, that's a good question, Lindsay. And there's actually 2 points in time that we look at what someone's earnings are when someone applies for PUA benefits. The first is when they file their initial claim and we're determining what their benefit amount is going to be each week. And there's clear federal guidance in the Code of Federal Regulations that says states need to look at net income for self-employed people to determine what their earnings are. That's not really the point that I think there's some variation between states. That variation comes in at the second point in time, which is when people file their weekly benefit claim. And we ask them, as we do with all unemployment claims, how much they earned during the week, because that can reduce or eliminate their benefits just for the week. The federal regulations that exist specifically say that when looking at income for those weekly benefits, that you look at gross income. And Oregon has been following those federal guidelines. The language in the Code of Federal Regulations is pretty clear on this, but we have heard that other states are looking at it differently, and we are actively pursuing this with the U.S. Department of Labor so that if it's possible for us to have a different interpretation that can provide more benefits to more people, we will do so.
Okay, so it is something that you're looking at, and you know that other states are treating it a little differently, it sounds like.
Right, we are aware of that. I think part of that is because it is such a new program, and when we look at the federal regulations, we're following the letter of those regulations, but we're seeking clarification from the U.S. Department of Labor if there's any ability for us to look at it differently.
Okay, thank you so much. Can that person mute their line too, because it's taking over the screen? I don't know who the 503 number is, but.
Go ahead, David. Next, Keaton Thomas, please go ahead, Keaton.
Hey, David. Good to see you and hear from you again. One of the questions that I've got here recently is related to the PEUC, so the extension of the benefits. Can you describe how quickly you guys are able to process those? Are those a different processing function than you would be with regular benefits or with PUA benefits? I had someone just wondering why, he's basically been waiting for his extended benefits for quite a while.
Sure, thank you, Keaton. It is a different process. The federal regulations require that we have an application before someone can start receiving the PEUC benefits. We implemented this in as easy a way as we could, and that created a couple different categories of how people can start getting those extension benefits. For people that have been claiming on an ongoing basis and then they use up their benefits, starting the date that we started being able to pay the PEUC benefits, when they go to file their weekly claim, they will be redirected to a page where they can just complete the simple online application, and then their benefit should continue pretty much unabated without any pause. For people who had already exhausted their benefits before that PEUC program was programmed in and operational, it is a different process. We need to have them upload a PEUC application. That application is available on our website. We've been notifying people who may be eligible for the PEUC benefits, but people don't have to wait to hear from us. If they believe they may be eligible, they can go ahead and file that and upload the application. For people who are uploading the application, that isn't as automated, so it does require some staff intervention, and that is causing some delays, certainly more than those that are able to just automatically roll over from one program to the next.
And then I just wanted to ask one follow-up question from earlier. Are you saying, so are there situations in which someone would apply for their PUA claim, they get a couple benefits, and then the benefits stop coming while you guys try and catch up with all of the processing going on? So like, are there breaks in benefits for some people who are applying for those PUA claims?
So unfortunately, right now, there are some breaks as we catch up with all of those weekly claims that are being filed. And we're addressing that now through aggressive addition of staff and redirecting of more staff so we can get through those much more quickly. And that's one of the key things that the Google solution should offer, is a lot more automation so that the vast majority of those weekly claims will be able to go through without employees having to touch each one and do some work for benefits to be paid. So we're working to get caught up, but there are currently some pauses. And again, we're encouraging people to recognize that that may be what's going on. You do not have to call us. We are working through all of those weekly claims certifications, and we're processing them as quickly as we can.
Thanks, Keaton. Next, Mike Rogaway, please go ahead, Mike.
Sorry, it took me a minute to hit the mute button. Hey, David, thanks for holding these each week. It's so helpful for us. So the hold times have gone down significantly for the phone lines, for the regular phone lines, but still remain, it looks like, about 90 minutes. I'm curious why those continue to be so long if you have worked through the backlog for regular claims. And then related, will there be a similar benchmark on the dashboard for you guys for the PUA phone lines at some point?
So the benchmark that we're reporting on the dashboard is the combined times for both the regular unemployment insurance and for the PUA lines. And I think that partially explains what you're asking about. The call volume for PUA claims is still very high. And that, of course, is because we're dealing with a larger number of people that are waiting to get the PUA benefits. And we do think that some of that also is both people calling in to check in on those weekly claims that we have, but that we're working to get caught up on. And another challenge that we've had with keeping the wait times low is keeping the phone system stable. Particularly, a lot of people are really frustrated not being able to get through. And there are apps now that people can use to auto dial into our system very frequently. And with lots of people using those auto dialing apps, it puts a lot more strain on the system, which makes it more difficult for us to keep it stable. So all of those things are contributing. As we work through the PUA claims, getting caught up both on the initial claims and on the weekly claims, we anticipate that the wait times will start to go down, hopefully pretty quickly.
Good, thanks.
Okay, next question from Bill Poehler, Statesman Journal.
Yeah, hi, David. I'm also asking about the phone stuff. So I've been hearing from a lot of people about how they're receiving calls from Department of Revenue staff who have been, from what I've been told, they can answer only basic questions, and then I've also heard a lot of people who are saying that they still can't get anything other than a busy signal. What is the department doing about that, and what's the Department of Revenue? Is that just different staff members who have been assigned to this, or how's that work?
So I think there's two different issues going on. I'll talk about the busy signal first, and that's why we're continuing to add capacity. Since the onset of the pandemic, we've needed to increase the number of employees we have, the amount of training they have, the number of phones for those employees to use, and the internal phone infrastructure, the number of lines, the number of phone circuits. So we've been increasing all of those all along, expanding them pretty rapidly. We're continuing to do that. I mentioned earlier that we anticipate having another 150 lines added within the next couple of weeks. That will help reduce the busy signals. It is a bit of a balancing act because if we don't have enough people to answer the calls, then more people can get through, but the wait times go up. So we're still continuing to try to increase capacity for all parts of that infrastructure, from the technical to the people. In terms of the call from the Department of Revenue, one of the things that we were hearing several weeks ago was that people were not just anxious about getting their benefits and in a really bad situation because they hadn't received them. They also were very anxious just not knowing what was going on and not having heard anything. And we heard that from the media. We heard that directly from people that were just wondering what was going on with their claim. We heard it from legislators and from others. We tried one of the approaches that was suggested, and we had, I think, over 150 volunteers from across the state, from state agencies in the executive branch and from the legislative branch, who dedicated their time to helping us do some outreach to people that were waiting to get benefits. Because you can't learn a lot about the unemployment insurance system and how to resolve issues or look up details of claims in a matter of days or even weeks, the amount of information that we were able to have them get back to people with was pretty basic information. So we did have people from the Department of Revenue and a number of other agencies that helped us out. And the goal was to to contact people who are waiting for benefits and give at least that basic information. And we knew that there would be some peace of mind for some people, which it did provide. We also knew that there would frankly be some frustration as people did hear, but weren't able to get the benefits or weren't able to get the more detailed information that they were really waiting for. But that was at least one step that we could take to try to improve our communication with people that were waiting.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Grant McKill with KXL. Grant McKill with KXL. Please go ahead. Okay. Tom Cusack with Oregon Housing Blog. Please go ahead, Tom.
Thanks. I have a question. I'm just looking at the initial claims received, and it looks to me in the various programs so far, it's more than 600,000. So my question is, for the most recent week, how many unique individuals are actually receiving benefits through any of the individual programs, including the regular unemployment insurance, WorkShare, FPEUC, and the FPUC program? I'd be interested to know exactly how many people are actually receiving benefits as of the most recent week.
That's a great question, Tom, and that's something that we're working to try to be able to reliably report. It gets complicated trying to look at individual people because our system and the unemployment insurance program was built around claims. And we do have people that are receiving benefits under multiple programs. I mentioned last week that we know that the way the program is structured and the way the federal reporting works gives a lot of good information, but doesn't really answer some of the core questions people have, like the one you just asked. So we are working to try to get that data readily available so that we can update that, but we don't have that right now. One of the challenges is with the PUA program. We really are just at the beginning stages of being able to get the data and refine it and break it down. We think that it will be increasingly challenging to get it broken down as much as we would like to be able to do all of that reporting, but we are still working on it.
And so one follow-up question related to that, I haven't seen any kind of recent breakout at all by county of claims and or benefits that have been paid. Is there something like that and I've just overlooked it?
Tom, we do have that data. We actually have a very robust website that predates the pandemic that looks at a lot of the unemployment insurance data, and you can go through and look at it by geographical area. You can break it down a number of different ways. And there is a link on our main website, and I'm hoping that I will remember the name of the website, which is escaping my memory right now, so I can share that. But it's something that people can go to and pull that data live.
My problem with this, I've looked at that website quite often in the last several months. The last data I've seen for most of those areas is like October of 2019.
Are you referring to a page that has some kind of static federal reports that have information broken out?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. There is a different site that
Okay.
has much more dynamic reporting, and I, again, hope that before the end of this, I will be able to get that website to share.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom. Next, Peter Wong.
Hi, I have looked at the dashboard. You've mentioned there are 1,200 employers in WorkShare so far, compared with 168 from the prior year. Do you have a count of number of employees covered on that?
We do, and I'll give one kind of asterisk to the information that we have, which is that the numbers that we have are for the claims that we have completed processing. So we do know, as I mentioned, we need to staff up because we have more waiting. So far, during that same time period of March 15 through June 13, so about 3 months, we have a little over 15,000 people that have filed initial claims under those WorkShare plans. In the year prior to that, it was about 3,000 people.
Okay. Full disclosure, I work for a company that is, the money is flowing under WorkShare, so it's not, I'm not registering a complaint here, but other question does also relate to WorkShare, and I was advised by one of your agency people that I understand under the CARES Act, I believe the current requirement is loss of 20% to 40% hours, and I understand that they could be as small as 10, as great as 60, but it would take state legislation. Are you familiar with that to implement those different parameters?
I am. So this actually wasn't something that was changed by the CARES Act.
Okay.
But there are both federal and state laws that apply to the WorkShare program. Oregon state law currently has that 20 to 40% range for somebody's schedule to be reduced in order to be part of the WorkShare program. Federal law permits the range to be as broad as 10 to 60%. So we could still be consistent with federal law if it were changed in state law to be broader. And that's something that we've had discussions with folks about who I think are looking at that as a policy option going forward. That is something that would take some state legislative action to change the range.
Okay, thanks.
Sure, and I will interject because I was able to find the website, and I will apologize to all of my colleagues in the Research and Communications Division for forgetting the name, but it is qualityinfo.org, and you can navigate through there and get information broken down by all types of criteria.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Jeff Robertson with KPTV. Please go ahead, Jeff. Jeff with KPTV. Okay. Shelley Swanky with KGW. Shelley with KGW. Okay, it looks like we have reached the end of reporters who RSVP'd. Are there any other last questions from reporters who have not had a chance to ask questions?
Hi, this is Jamie Goldberg with the Oregonian. I just had a quick question. Following up on the initial question about gross versus net income, I just for clarification purposes, would that mean that essentially a business, a self-employed individual who's makes a small amount of money during a week that they then immediately have to use on overhead could end up not being eligible for benefits for that week, or a lower amount for that, a small amount, only a small amount for that week, simply because they have to report gross income, even though they really can't use that money in any way that would enable them to pay the personal expenses they need to.
Sure, Jamie, I think you accurately described it, and that's why people are concerned. And that's why we're pursuing with the Department of Labor whether there is a way to look at it differently. The federal language pretty specifically says that for unemployed, self-employed people, so people that are getting PUA that are self-employed, their weekly benefit amount is to be reduced by the full amount of any income they receive during the week. And then it goes on to say that any income means gross income.
Okay. All right, thank you.
If there are no other questions, we will wrap up. We will send the recording of this media briefing shortly after the call ends, as well as the updated dashboard, which has been posted online. So you are welcome to visit that online.
Can I ask one more question before you end it? I'm sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
I got a question from somebody. They're wondering if you plan to open any of the employment offices so people have another way to get help now that some of the counties are reopening things.
That's a great question, Lindsay, and we're working really closely with our partners. Those local offices are part of a workforce system where we work with statewide, local community partners to provide all kinds of services to people. We're making sure that we're following the state guidelines regarding when offices can be open, and making sure that as we do that, we're doing that with our partners in a structured way so that we can all provide the right support to people that are needing assistance. So we're in active discussions about when we can do that and how we will do that. But at this point, we don't have a specific date that we can share as to when that might happen. And it may well depend on what area you're in. They likely won't all open at the same time.